technology is always a solution in the crisis. So technology will be really handy. There are multiple areas in which this technology would be adopted. One area is in the conduction of admission tests. The other area where technology definitely will play a most important role is in the learning space.
For online education to really become mainstream and enroll millions of students rather than hundreds of thousands of students, we need to have online degrees that are accredited by the various agencies.
My message to all the students and the higher education stakeholders is we need to double our efforts in this time in order to sustain and keep our economy afloat.
In India, we have to look at technology and education 4.0 as actually providing education to the uneducated, people who are not getting quality education.
Education 3.0 was nothing but technology driven. This is now going to be a permanent feature and is now going to figure in all the teaching learning activities of times to come.
Hello everybody, we are back with yet another chapter of College Dunia Connect. College Dunia Connect is one of a kind initiative by the College Dunia team to facilitate exchange of thoughts and best practices across institutes even in these pandemic times. We have an amazing panel with us today. We have the top management of some of the best and very well-known B schools of Maharashtra. Today we have Dr. R. Chandran, the Director of Pillai Institute of Management Studies and Research, Mumbai, Dr. Prashant Gundawar, the Director of Sterling Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai, Ms. Rajshri Pillai, the HOD of HR Department and Deputy Director of PIBM Pune, that is Pune Institute of Business Management, Dr. Ashutosh Misal, the Director of DY Patil Institute of Management Studies, Pune. A very warm welcome to all of you, sir and ma'am, and thank you so much for taking out your precious time for this initiative. The topic of today's discussion will be the changing landscape of education delivery and communication. In the past 2 decades, information and communication technology and internet have been changing our lifestyles, enabling several social and economic developments, changing ways of buying and selling goods and services, and even affecting our social interactions. The biggest impact we are experiencing, however, is in the field of education as the learning landscape is changing and new learning spaces are emerging. The definition of classroom and the modes of delivery are also changing. Higher education systems worldwide are changing and will continue to change now also. Be it with the introduction of the long-awaited new education policy or the pre- and post-COVID era, the change in the education industry has been drastic and will continue to be so. With this thought in mind, I would like to open the discussion for all our esteemed panelists and would invite their opening remarks. Let's start with Dr. R. Chandran. Sir, if you can please share your views.
I'm very, very happy to be with you, gentlemen, and my are here, and they are also interacting. They are looking so young and very smart, and they are techno savvy too. Having said that, in fact, the management education as a whole had a complete change. While I started my teaching in well-known institution in Bombay, 1981-82, we believed in only one concept, that was chalk, talk, walk. Even blackboard was not many times black in color. The dusty chalks were used per class of 3 hours. We have to spend minimum 2 chalks, 3 chalks, because during those days about 3 hours we have to engage lecture. Maximum monotonous talk, and the computer was a luxury. So, but after 4 decades, we could see everywhere complete techno-savvy, techno-driven learning and execution. We teachers have to stand in front of the students for hours together, but it was a lovely experience. Because management concepts are examples, everything we have to write on the board, whether it is business mathematics or it is managerial economics or econometrics. So the faculty member has to go through stage by stage. The old way of teaching and learning process was tiresome. At the same time, students were very, very appetite oriented. They wanted to learn. And we are seeing all the people are occupying top positions. Today, this COVID has made us, number one, completely techno-oriented. Those who are not in a position, even if they are aged, to update technology, they are having no relevance to current. At the same time, volumes and volumes of books the faculty member had to read once upon a time. The students were also forced to do so, bringing during those days Harvard or Watson or Stanford's cases, and people were just discussing the class. Today, we are missing all these avenues. The faculty member need not have to by heart all the concepts and systematically go through the syllabi. Today, everyone can acquire as much knowledge as possible. The basic thing is, during those days, people were completely knowledge oriented. After some time, the skill sets started overtaking knowledge. In 1990s and early part of 2000, more than knowledge and the skills, the mindset or the attitude taken seriously by all the corporates. Today, how you are going to be adaptable, technically sound, minimum talk, maximum action. These areas are occupying top positions. But at the same time, we are born in India, we are gifted people, we are the blessed people. Even the students are blessed, because many countries in the world, the management education has not come to this advanced level. Take any African country, any Latin American country, any Southeast Asian country, even all the Gulf countries. We are surrounded by many countries where the human assets are very important. If we faculty members and if the institutions are trying to develop some sort of extra inputs on how to handle the business, how to be profit-oriented, revenue in terms of numbers, these parts are to be given more important than knowledge. The companies every time going on cribbing about the institutions that there is a wide gap between the institutions and the corporate expectation. This particular feedback is for the past 40 years. Now, it is better to groom the students to be smarter, better to take quick decisions, and capable of having patience for better results. And really, we have to develop entrepreneurial professionals. Entrepreneur in attitude, professional in terms of approaching methods. If these two will enable students to be much better than what we nowadays. All the faculty members are so knowledgeable, no doubt about it, and they constantly update the skill sets. But at the same time, all the skills and knowledge areas are going to be properly delivered to students or not. Still, it is a debatable area. This is from my view, from older generation to generation. But everyone is having excellent opportunity to progress, to be successful, either teachers or the students. And we should provide human assets to all the parts of the world. We are talking about Make in India. Why use it? Make professional India. Let's keep our agenda. This is not possible among students community alone. It could be the combined efforts of the promoters, all the regulators, the faculty members, students, and also the proactive corporate bodies to get the right kind of people. They fold and make them to be great professionals, so that the country will be built through these kinds of efforts. We have a major responsibility and also social commitment to grow good quality output. It doesn't mean that scholarly quality students, but smart and capable students with a competency. This is from my view, and we try to do that together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking us down the memory lane, where we were actually reminiscing how the classrooms were back in the days with the blackboard, and now how classrooms have changed, which has come online now. Thank you so much for this insightful thing, sir. Now I would like to invite Ms. Rashri Pillai to share her thoughts.
Thank you so much. I totally agree with R. Chandran sir. I think he has rightly said the word competency. So when we talk about competency, corporates nowadays are looking at it's a combination of skill, ability, capability to perform in the organization from day one. So, and also to start their own organizations. And when we are training and teaching students or developing the competencies, of course, teaching in classroom and technology has, made a tremendous change. And I think post-COVID, we have especially giving more importance to technology. Of course, there is a technology which is given by AI and machine learning, wherein people are talking about chatbots to solve students' queries. Even there are robot teachers getting into the classroom. With that technology, the human teacher has a great importance. And I would like to talk about PIBM. I think 16th or 20th March, the lockdown happened, and our students were supposed to go on a live project. And that day itself, we started working from home, leverage the technology, and definitely, our students could grab the technology and work towards it. And Sir Ramchandran sir has rightly said, this particular generation is tech savvy. Of course, the combination of traditional teaching as well as technology would help students to, and college administration would play a very important role. Teachers are upgrading, as well as colleges need to have all trending technology which is required by the students. Let it be starting from learning management system, solving students' study 24/7. Apart from that, usage of technology to mentor students and counseling students, because this is the tough time, in this tough time, human connect is little less. So that time, mentoring and counseling through this online media is also important. So that's what I would like to put forward from my side.
Right, ma'am. Great. I would also invite Dr. Prashant Gunawar sir to share his views on this.
Hello, good evening, friends.
Good evening, sir.
Well, the topic changing landscape of education delivery is a very apt topic. And if we go back 100 years, or rather in the last century, the delivery and communication has not changed much. It is only in this last 20 years, I think, with the advent of computers, the internet, things have really changed. And it is even difficult for us as teachers to cope up with the new technologies. But then we have to catch up with the new technologies, we have to catch up with the new delivery mechanisms, the way the world is going. And in fact, as educators, as teachers, the pace at which we study and the pace at which our students study is quite different. So for the young generation, it is actually much easier to catch up with the pace. Anyway, I think there are entire models which run on technology, in which there is no face-to-face communication, or there is no classroom teaching as such. For example, in Pune, we have the Symbiosis Open and Distance Education, SCDL, Symbiosis Center for Distance Learning, wherein thousands of students are there, and they all learn through technology. They all learn through videos, audios, files are sent, assignments are given, problems are solved remotely. The student could be in any corner of the country, or rather in any corner of the world, and here in Pune they can resolve the issues. They can teach, they can revise, they can mentor. It's a fantastic example, and we all have to evolve that way at some point of time. Of course, the catching has to be done. The sooner the better. The sooner the better. And it is this pandemic which has actually forced us to look the e-way. For the traditional colleges like ours, we have been teaching on the blackboard. We have been using PPTs, OHPs, this, that, and so forth. But then the use of technology was limited to a certain extent. And then came the smart boards, and then we had training sessions for teachers, asking them to get ready. This is how a smart board is used, and this is what you have to do now. Of course, for computer students or for other courses, laboratories with good internet speed and so were used. Good quality computers with good configurations were used. So technology was very much a part. But with the pandemic, I think since the last couple of years, the level of penetration has gone to such an extent that since students were not able to come, students were not able to join, this was the only way we could take it ahead. This was the only way. So we have come a long way, and as my colleagues have stated, yes, we are catching up with the world, and I don't think we are aping the West, but yes, this is the way forward, and we hope the pandemic gets over very soon, because if it's not very comfortable either for us or our students. Technological advancements, I know, have many advantages. It is definitely a good way. But then there are a lot of issues on the other side. Let me tell you, I've been personally talking to my students. There are a lot of psychological issues. People are not moving out of the house. They are going through a lot of depressing moments. There's a lot of frustration. They're not getting along with their parents or colleagues or friends and so on. They're having constant fights, and I believe this is because we humans are social. We need interaction, one-to-one interaction, face-to-face interaction we need. This is what we need. And okay, academics is going on, but they don't even get to meet their teachers, the directors, principals. So this has been very frustrating for our students as well. They say, sir, you are teaching online, you're carrying out the exams online, you're collecting the fees online. I said, that is the way the world is moving ahead now. And we don't want to waste your years. We don't want to waste time. We want you to move ahead. Mumbai University is also continuously giving us instructions. This is how you 8-10 colleges come together, make clusters, you set up the question paper, we'll have this, that, and we have been doing it. Yes, we have been catching up with it, and we have been doing it. But what about the learners? So the other side is, I think it is not very comfortable for the students. And for us also, it's been a hard time. For me especially, managing my teams remotely, that's not all that easy. But then yes, I think this pandemic has really forced us to look into technology, to upgrade our technology. We have told all teachers, now you have to have a higher bandwidth, you have to have a better internet connection. Well, very recently we have opened up, and a few of our teachers have actually started coming. And they said, sir, this previous internet connection is no good now. We need to have a higher bandwidth. I said, great, we'll do it. No issues. So it's really changing, and changing very fast. And now we have to see whether for good or not so good.
Right, sir. So like you were talking about the pace at our parents maybe were teaching, and now the pace at which we are learning, pace the future generation will be learning. That brings me to my first question for this webinar, that how important it is to have a smooth and tech-friendly college administration. Because like you were talking about, you have been handling your team remotely, and you've been instructing your team to follow certain procedures. So how important it is in current times to have a smooth and tech-friendly administration in the college or in the institute?
Well, what has happened is, I can only state about my experiences. It is not all that easy, because there are we have to, as educators, as educational institutes, we will still have to face all those government agencies, whether it is DTE, AICTE, whether it is Shikshan Shulka, Praveshni Antande Samiti, this, that. There's a lot of work, which cannot be done remotely, which, there are a lot of files, papers, you need to do scanning, you need to send whatever information they're asking for. So, I think for our clerks or office people, they had to come to the office. Or even simple things like sending marks to Mumbai University, for example. People couldn't do that at home. So it wasn't a very smooth experience for us, frankly, for the administration part.
Good. Very nice, Dr. Prashant. You have brought the regulators' inability, our colleges. We cannot use the word called inability. Before 2010, efficient administrator has become completely irrelevant today. The reason is, you are in those days, they were hard and they were able to interact with all the regulators one side, and college faculty members or director and the students on the side. The human touch was there from the administrative point of view. Today,
absolutely,
they have to upgrade themselves. The senior member with the experience is not in a position to update the speed at which technology had made a. We are having a little bit of we cannot use the word inability, little irrelevance today. So we have to recruit smart people with technology-driven background, and we have to train them. And all the regulatory bodies, rules, regulations, their own guidance, every handbook, each and every part, the younger generation may not be able to read, interpret, and implement. But that kind of advantage, the older generation administrators were having. In fact, registrar or administrator, OSD, officer, superintendent, or the whole lot of the clerks of 1980s and 90s may not have any relevance today, even though they were very loyal to the management and hardcore, sincere people to regulators. So this is the challenge we are facing now. Even today, they do not know any clue about the admission process. How many competitive exams are there for entrance? They are not able to comprehend. So the combination of the older generation and the new generation, if we are going on increasing overheads of administration, then how to run the institution? So these are all the challenges we are facing now. So the best combination would be technology-driven administrator with little bit of legal background and adaptability to any self-financed institutions, either management or trustees. That kind of combination of all qualities should be recruited, should be nurtured, then they will be adaptable. This not only one or two institutions we are talking about, almost all the institutions are encountering this particular unexplainable challenge. Somewhere, someplace, we may have some flaws. How to rectify those flaws? Again, problem.
There are a few things which I feel, for example, there is this MKCL, Maharashtra Knowledge Corporation, which has an interface with us for a lot of examinations and admissions related issues. That's one interface. And others, I don't hesitate to say that the working is absolutely horrible. They have absolutely no clue what they are doing. So continuously we have to send people and get it done, get it rectified. So what I'm trying to point out is the level of technology integration or the depth of technology is really very different along these different government offices, and that makes our role even more difficult as educators.
Right, sir. Sir, I would also like to invite Dr. Ashish Misal to share his thoughts on this, because sir, we are discussing how important it is to have a smooth and friendly tech environment in the college administration, right? So what is your thoughts on that?
As all the esteemed speakers, Dr. Chandran and Dr. Prashant and Rajeshri ma'am, as they were discussing, incidentally, Dr. Prashant happens to be one of my good old friends. So we have been working together when he was in Pune. So one thing, what I would like to mention from the discussion which I have been hearing, And from my side, as the technology changing, and as Dr. Chandran was talking about, the people need to change. So from that perspective, I think a lot of importance, even the governing authorities like AICTE and then NBA norms, they are giving a lot of importance to training of the people who are at the level of office superintendent or maybe clerical level. So they need to upgrade themselves. From the perspective of the students, I think that is the easiest thing. Rather, that is the class of people who have got nothing much to do rather than clicking on a link and just start attending. A lot of efforts are required from the teacher's side or from the point of view of a teacher. As Dr. Chandran was mentioning, that he was belonging to the era where there were blackboards and there was no other technology being used. So fortunately, we also are not that young, sir. So when I started my education in COEP, we had one subject called as computer awareness. And entire COEP had only one computer, which was costing 3.5 lakh rupees in 1985. And that was shown to us as if, some patient is admitted in a hospital and we look through the small glass window of ICU. So we were shown the computer like that. So that is a CPU, that is how the system looks like. And then we are now into such an area that everyone has got a computer in his hands. So I don't think that there is much difficult as such for the people to adjust with the situation. But what is required is the inner willingness of those people, what Dr. Chandran was mentioning, the good old, very loyal people, very rightly said by him. If they decide to come up with the wish of learning something new, the wonders can definitely happen. From the perspective of getting new things adopted, as I've just now said, that we need to give the training to all those people. We can have the most simplified and user-friendly technologies which you can use. Say, for example, in our institute, we have taken one ERP, which is not an ERP, I would say. It is an LMS, learning management system, where attendance records, then assignments, then mentoring. There are many things which we are storing in it. And we have not yet integrated admissions and the separation of a student, like getting a living certificate and all, and accounts. Those are the only 2-3 things. If we just include to it, I think it will not be very difficult. Fortunately, the new generation, we can call it as Generation Z, or slightly back before that was the millennial generation. So these people are very much techno savvy. So if you see that if they want to learn some new software, they are very much faster as compared to any of our Generation X and previous generation people. So that is an advantage. There was one research which is done in medical science that anybody who was born after 1995 comes up with 2 additional genes in him. He can understand all electronic gadgets, and the surprise is there in front of us. So those all people who are even not learned, not educated, they're also able to operate handsets and all these kind of software. So from my side, I think it's only the willingness of that person which needs to be harnessed and focused more.
Right, sir. Absolutely, because I also feel that how you're telling your experience about how the change has been there, like from when you saw a computer from a distance, and now everybody has computers and mobile phones in their hand. So the change has been there, and also now, which brings me to my next question, that is how difficult and how challenging it is, or basically what is the difference between in the face-to-face learning or teaching and screen-to-screen learning or teaching. So now you all were academicians, right? And you all were teaching students, and then you were able to teach students in a face-to-face manner. When you were seeing students, the students were seeing you. But now the learning has happened through on a screen-to-screen basis, right? So what is the difference that you have faced, and what are the challenges that you have been facing with this?
Correct.
Okay.
Should I enter? Fine. Thank you so much. Ashutosh, Dr. Rajashri, and Prashant, they're all very much attuned to the current situation and current challenges. We have cross sections of our higher education, like engineering, architecture, management in different campuses. What we have come across is more than about 70-80% of these students are capable of grasping, and they attend all these courses, online courses, over the past about 14 months. There are certain gray areas they are willing to do and they are very sincere. They are so committed. The appetite for learning is there. Unfortunately, the connectivity is not there. On an average, the place where we are located, like Navi Mumbai, we have a catchment area like Kopoli, Artani, Karjat, Kasara, Pen. So many areas, electricity is not existing. Sometimes the bandwidth is not working. So these are the people to be properly taken care. So what we have seen is the online sessions, even good YouTube also can teach. But the face-to-face is having terrible amount of impacts. Whenever we teach, you use PPT or the modern techniques in the classroom, 80% is communicated through our body language. The faculty members are moving around. Eye-to-eye contact is there. Whether the candidate has learned any concept or any practice, immediately the teacher is one person capable of just looking at the face of the student, whether the candidate has understood or not. That is missed. That's what we are seeing. And another way of putting across things, using the technology maximum. For example, if automobile engineering, if instead of just directly teaching AC, DC engineering, it is better to take Ford Motor, General Motor, American Motor Company, Toyota, the headquarters. These are the places you are going to work, even for management students. We have to really project, magnify, make a 3D effect, 4D effect, and give a dream to the students. The delivery system should not be restricted to PowerPoint and explanation. It should be so advanced, really make them to be dreamers. Tomorrow in the headquarters of Coca-Cola, you are going to sit in the headquarters, whether it is Atlanta or Colgate-Palmolive in places like Manhattan. This is the place you have to go and sit. So right from the beginning, we have to instigate and make the students to dream big. This is from my point of view. Still, face-to-face cannot be substituted or cannot be an alternative on online sessions. Classroom session is very important, and the emotional touch, as Rajashree was mentioning very emphatically, you are mentoring, you are guiding, they consider you as a guru. Whatever you talk, they give more respect than even parents. So we have to maintain that. For that, the classroom is very, very effective. Temporarily for some time, almost all my colleagues are accepting the fact that face-to-face cannot be replaced by online sessions. This is my view. I think my friend Ashutosh can.
Yeah. Well, that is. I think that is the biggest challenge which this education system is facing, I guess, and all of my colleagues would agree here. The biggest challenge is keeping the students engaged online. That is the biggest challenge, because face to face you have, as sir was telling, you have an eye contact, wherein a lot of the things the teacher can be communicating to the students with the help of a body language. As sir has rightly said, 93% of our communication goes through our facial expressions and body language. So that is absolutely missing. What a student can see is only this much face of faculty, and in reality we cannot see any student on the other side. We do not know, because purposefully from the bandwidth perspective, we are making a student to keep a video off and audio also on mute. So we don't know on the other side of the camera whether he's sleeping or whether he's attending. So online engagement is one of the crucial issue. And as I've said at the start itself, the teacher or the faculty in today's era is supposed to do a lot of efforts than student, because student simply has to click a link. Faculty is to do a lot of engagement from this side. So we have in our institute, through one of the FDP series, we have conducted the sessions for online engagement on all such kind of different platforms, and making the trainees as well as the students involved. So we have come up with different software which are available online for making the students engage. Like there is Kahoot, there is Mentimeter, then Hot Potatoes, Classmaker. There are many software available which will make the students engage. You can even use simple polls or quizzes online. Then there are a lot of gaming platforms available, gaming website. Cartoon Network has their gaming website. Then arcadium.com is there. Disney has got their gaming website. Of course, those may be used for school children, but then nonetheless, this I've used in one of the MDP which I've done for Tata Communications. So we did all the employee engagement programs online. So a lot of technology is supposed to be learned by the teacher. So in my opinion, teacher is a person who is suffering a lot in this circumstances, and it is really a need for the teacher to get developed.
Right.
If you talk about the challenges of online education, then I think the biggest challenge is to involve the student, because the teacher of today, we call him lecturer or professor, basically is a teacher. The teacher of today is basically a facilitator. He is the one who helps the student to learn. Now with this kind of online communication, my teachers tell me, sir, the lecture which normally takes 90 minutes is now getting completed in 45 to 50 minutes because students are not responding, because it is only becoming a one-way dialogue. It's no more a discussion now. And well, as Dr. Ashutosh said, student simply has to touch, click, and he's there. Okay, we can see the name of the student, but is he sleeping? Is he eating? Is he drinking? Is he gone to the toilet? We do not know. And when we call names, he's unattentive. He must be moving around somewhere. You know, this will definitely not happen in a traditional classroom, wherein after years of teaching, we actually know, we can read the person's mind just looking at the face. We know what is going on in the student's mind, whether he's attentive, to what extent the learning is happening, whether the student has any doubts. We can actually come to know looking at the face of the student.
Right.
And this we have in online teaching, we absolutely know what is happening. So these issues have really propped up. And well, if you see the other side, students are getting good marks. How they are getting good marks? Again, these are questions. Okay, we are giving them degrees, MBA, MCA, we're giving them degrees. But what is the output? What is the quality of our produce? We do not know. You know, it is not only the mark sheet that matters. We, as educators, have responsibility in instilling knowledge. We have to make them capable to face the companies, the world, and so on and so forth. As far as the marks are concerned, great, they're getting wonderful, super grades. So this time will tell us.
Right.
So to overcome this, we have come up with an idea. We have a concept called class participation. So every class, whenever teacher calls the name and asks questions, student has to answer. And that we made it as a part of some formative evaluation. So that is one. And after every class, there is a quiz which student has to attempt. So that has helped us to, and we also shared dongles with our students and ensured that there is a bandwidth. Of course, some students from remote areas, they found it difficult. So that was one. And there was a SOP, if they want to have an attendance, they have to switch on the camera. And of course, we have used various platforms also. And that way, it is ensured that students are learning, students are participating. And of course, teachers also face initial issues. We have started a case study driven pedagogy, wherein we used to share a case with the students rather than just showing a PPT. Students have to come up with the pointers, discuss, and at the end the teacher will give the remark. So that has helped. Of course, students are facing issue of longer screen time because faculty will take 1 or 2 or 4 sessions, but students have 8 hours, 9 hours session. That was the issue they were facing. Even various health issues, backache, eye burning. So these are the issues, and then we have given them ideas, having a break. We ensure that after 2 classes, there's a 5 to 10 minute break so that students get rest. Even we called, the fitness trainer who is there at our campus, and we ensure that how they can, ensure the physical activity in between that particular period so that they are active. They are not getting these hazards. Okay? So that's the way we try to ensure. Of course, there are challenges, and I totally agree with everybody. There's no option other than classroom sessions. Classroom sessions are very, very effective. So I agree with that. Yeah.
You have a nice point. Are we going to produce management graduates as smart people, or we want to create scholars. Let us be very, very clear on it. No company which is coming here for recruitment expect scholarly qualities from students. They should be smart. They should have a proper listening, just like IELTS. One side is listening, art of speaking, art of comprehending, and these kinds of qualities are very, very important for students. Even companies are not expecting outstanding students. They want whether they are going to deliver. Here, maximum whenever you are having in the campus environment, students may go to library for about half an hour. He may have some peer group to move with in the canteen, or whenever they go together to transport, to board in a train or bus, they are interacting. That kind of situation is not arising. See, we are teaching, we are good, no doubt about it. Every member is a hero or heroine. They want to be adorated. They should be admired. They put so much of efforts, no doubt about it. But at the same time, the success of the institution or success of the student is involved in more than knowledge, skills. More than skills, attitude. More than that, performance. Tomorrow, if you are going to join any company, that performance-oriented leadership quality is very important. We are missing that. Now, my suggestion, humble suggestion is, at least even 3 months they get out of 2 years in post-graduation. These 3 months, don't teach anything, just you give them sharpness in skill development. Now, what is the criticism we are getting from HR teams of all the companies? There is a wide gap between the institution inputs and our requirement. For the past 50 years, we are hearing the same thing.
Almost, yeah.
Another thing is, whenever we ask any student, he is not able to even introduce himself. I think you are coming across the same thing. It's including IIMs.
It's the same story everywhere, sir. It's the same story everywhere.
So, having done this, just make the students so smart. Student-centric institutions will survive tomorrow. Student-centric means constant mentoring, constantly giving him major strengths and honing on this, optimizing their strengths, and try to be very, very positive, and positive vibration should be there in the institution. The traditional method of a student and teachers, it's slowly the gap is to be bridged. And first, because knowledge they can get from anywhere. Within 2 months also 10 subjects could be taught, and the basics, 100 concepts, if they by heart with some examples, they will learn. But his success is depending upon how you are going to groom him in terms of his communicative ability, his understanding, his art of listening. These are all companies' requirement. That's what they are expecting. So, the point here is, maximum when they come back, hope that by August or September, students will come. Fully, all the teachers should train the students how to be, whatever they have lost for the past about 15 months, that should be properly compensated by interaction, and make them to sit in the evening, make them to learn with fun. In such cases, at least the confidence level will be better. Now, many of the parents are of the opinion that only in online teaching is taking place. Why should I pay the tuition fee? Why can't they reduce to about, say, 60%, 70%, 80%, depending upon their lucky numbers they are asking? So, why they are, many people may not ask because the internal is with our student, our faculty members, our institutions. So they are keeping quiet. But it is in the mind of many of the parents too. So, point here is, make them to run. As Dr. Prasant was mentioning, it's better we have to make the students to display their skills, talents. We have to concentrate only on talents. Good YouTube material is better than many faculty members' inputs in the class. Just you go through one John V. Panwar 14 years old girl, YouTube, just her series will be more than sufficient than our business communication. That is a reality. There are quite a large number of role models are available, but our duty is to train them. We are like a coach. Now we have to play the role of coach. A student who is having about 92% is not able to communicate in single sentence, right? What is the use of that particular education, right? Ultimately, tomorrow, when he goes to some company, any company for this matter, whether Indian large business houses, or it is a financial segment, or it is a banking, or any multinational company, what is very important, he has to have the relationship. Interpersonal relationship is very, very important, but he has not been given any chance. This is from my point of view. If you want to deliver with as a facilitator, as a moderator, as a guide, as a triggering point, we have to ignite their skills, and individually we have to counsel students to identify their strength, and depending upon the strength, we have to be like a godfather or godmother. This alone is going to work in future. That the emotional bonding also should be there. Always, whenever we go to classes, the first day itself, the faculty member is capable of by-hearting all 60 names and just calling individually. You are winning the goodwill of at least 90%. Teaching is apart. Whatever the faculty member says, it is like a gospel for the students. So we have to change completely our approach to this younger generation. They are emotionally very much deprived, and many families we have seen either single child or double. We use the DINK population and DISC population. Income single child or double income double child, whatever. It's not how to participate in that debate. Point here is they want to get some place where they can just put their shoulder. We are supposed to be such kind of shoulders for them. Whatever you say, they will listen. Grooming that, because we have experienced large people, they were nothing, but we have. So if you go to any country for this matter, top positions are occupied by our own students. Some students, the Bombay students, the students from India. We have to be always particular about India. We should not distinguish between Bombay and some other places. Our Indian students are smart, emotionally bound. Compared to any other part of the world, we can transform very quickly, provided we are student-centric with the emotion and guiding them constantly. Definitely we can transform. That should be our objective of all the institutions for this matter.
Right, sir. We have also opened the discussion for the students to ask questions, and we have got some very interesting questions in the questions. If you are willing to answer, I'll ask the questions as well. Yeah. So one of the students has asked, what is your take on the education delivery once the pandemic is over and everyone is vaccinated? Will technology still be an inherent part of the education and delivery in the post-pandemic times?
Our question is for whom?
Sorry, sir?
Question is for whom?
Anybody can ask. It is a question from the audience. If you're free, feel free to ask, please.
Technology is an integral part of the education system.
Right.
This will not be separated. Technology will remain better off. Even advanced technology like 3D, 4D will be coming. Just if you want to know about one company sitting over here itself, the whole manufacturing process, the whole board meetings are the face of the CEO, everything will come in front of you and it's going to be interactive in future. So we cannot separate education with advanced technology. And innovative methods will be also coming up with the different platforms, and we must be prepared for it. Quick learning, long learning will not be there. 2 years of MBA could be completed within about 3 months also, but the rest is to be with interaction with the companies. That's from my point of view.
Prashant sir, what is your take on that?
Okay. Well, the students who want to come to college, we receive many messages, we receive phone calls, so please open up, we want to be there, because students are actually badly missing the entire college environment. It's not only the teachers, there's an entire aura in the campus, and that is what the students are missing. As far as the delivery mechanism is concerned, we'll definitely go back to the old style. But again, authorities like AICTE and UGC are now stressing that traditional teaching up to 40% can be replaced with online teaching. This is what they've been telling. But then as far as we are concerned at our institute, we have not yet taken a call on this, whether 40% should be online. We feel that there's no fun in online. The depth of teaching doesn't happen. But then we don't know, maybe in course of time, we might have to slowly start adopting, to the way the regulators tell us. But as of now, we don't have any plans. It will be full-time, face-to-face teaching.
Yeah, just to add what Prashant sir was talking about, see, there are certain positive sides of this online teaching is definitely there with the technology. Data management has become quite easy. And it is just like green HR, green marketing. I think we would be calling this as a green education, where you can manage data, manage assignment, manage the CCEs, their attendance. Everything is saving a lot of papers, even including the examinations. If we just do a simple calculation, 36 pages, one paper, another 36 pages of supplement, and lakhs of students. So how much amount of papers are wasted? So that is totally been nullified now. And with some definitely some better changes in the examination system, I think green education will definitely be an advantage for this system. So as Prashant sir was talking, certain part will definitely be remaining there, as many of the things which we are doing online, that will continue doing online.
But then as Chandran sir also said, we Indians tend to be very emotional,
Yes.
So really time will tell,
Yes.
Sir, we have another question that what is your opinion about online courses like Coursera, Udemy, etc. that are on the rise? Do you think they have the potential to be a substitute for traditional forms of education? I would like Ms. Rajshri to enlighten us with her thoughts on this.
Yeah, definitely. It is not a substitute. It can be a supportive thing. But see, there are two ways to look at. There are people who are self-learner who want to have extra additional course. Like, let's assume somebody is working in a corporate, want to have some additional courses. So that way it will definitely help. There are people who have progressed through these courses. But of course, the classroom teaching plus the regularized course has a lot of importance. Because see, when you are doing a course from Coursera, you have a timeline. Maybe you may not complete or you might complete. But when you are going to a college or the institute, you are bound to get into the classroom, bound to learn and bound to complete that particular task. That's why I feel that it will go hand in hand in future, the way online e-commerce and retail shops are going hand in hand. So the same way, it will be supplementary, which will be helpful. See, now I'll give you the example. Let's assume something I'm teaching in a class, which has been recorded. If students are not getting along at that particular point of time, he can see the video, look at it and understand the concept better. So definitely it will be an add-on for students to learn. That's what is my point of view.
Right. Now, I also want to ask, there's a question on the question board also, that how can the faculties help students to adapt to the fast-paced post-COVID scenario, and what are the different technologies or softwares that you are using in your specific institutes in order to cope up with this technological advancement?
You want me to answer this?
Yes, Rajesh.
Please.
Yeah, sure. So, can you repeat the question, sir? You are asking about what kind of technology we are using. That's what
I want to understand that how can the faculties help students to adapt the fast-paced post-COVID scenarios, and what are the different technologies or softwares or different methods you are using in your institute in terms of this technological advancement to cope up with this?
We have our own learning management system. PIBM we have developed, so it is AI driven. Also, we have all the recordings of our sessions. Plus, we are using Zoom and other video conferencing platforms. Apart from that, we have using the engagement platforms like already Ashutosh sir has mentioned Menti.com and other websites. So that's the way we are ensuring that our students are engaged. Apart from that, we have a separate mentoring session with every faculty. so that there are issues like Chandra sir was telling, they are going through emotional issues, plus they are not able to cope up at times with the online studies. So with that, we are ensuring that both the things are there, plus we are having a job and competency based training. Of course, attitude development, we are training our student onto emotional intelligence and other negotiation skill, critical thinking, problem solving. Those are add-on 1 credit courses are there. Apart from that, we have a profile based training. I think that is going to be important. Every particular specialization has various profiles. Let's say I'll speak about HR. So we have HR analyst, HR business partner, related with talent management, employee engagement. So we are ensuring that our students are trained onto this, and plus we are ensuring that corporate members are coming in and addressing students, solving their queries, and also students are presenting their work to the corporate through online platforms, so that students get the real time exposure. Also, we have started a leadership series, and through that leadership series, various CEOs and CHROs are addressing students what is going to be the future post COVID, and how students can develop towards it. Also, last this pandemic when happened after 3 months, my HR students, they have arranged the HR colloquium online by collecting various HRs, and they have taken a guidance from them how they can prepare themselves for the future. So these are the various things which we are doing to make our students, it's just not, I would say, job ready, or they can create the employment, but to be a good human leader. That's also is very, very important.
I have a small okay, fine. Now there is a major complaint coming from the corporate area. Teachers are teaching only from theories. Little sarcastic too. This is a bitter reality. Everybody understands that. Now, why can't we look at, suppose if these faculty members are here for about, say, 1 year, 1 month compulsorily they should go and learn the realities of industry and come back.
Yeah.
What happens is, whenever they go, the system of operation, their costing, their every segment, every year one domain. First they can go to some textile industry. 1 month, whenever we are forcing the students to go for internship, while we are monitoring them, why should we restrict ourselves only to theories and textbooks? There are few fortunate people, they have a blend of industry experience and teaching passion. They are gifted people, they are blessed people. The institute is blessed with such good people. Now, the problem is pure theories. They are all dedicated academicians, no doubt about it. Suppose if any student is asking, in retail, how many shelves are there? Simple. So, it is better you go and get trained in retail for about, say, 1 month company, even without paying anything. Just you observe how the system is operating. If you go on textiles, engineering, basic chemicals, or drug pharmaceuticals, so many segments, you will become so strong. This particular weakness cannot be pointed by any HR person who is coming here. Even the students, always in the backside of his mind, every student is feeling that this particular faculty is a teacher, is teaching very well, very nice, but there is no industry exposure. And we are producing students. So this is really a suggestion, and those who are fortunate enough, they can relate how the industry is operating. So the faculty members should spend at least 1 month in industry. 1 week if you go, because of your sharpness, or faculty members' sharpness, they can learn the whole system, how the industry dynamics are operating. It's very, very easy, right? Once if they go to the port, Navasheva port, right from the beginning at the entrance, how the cargo is handled, how the containers are kept, naturally, when he comes and talks to the students, naturally, the basic, from the bottom of the heart, every student will start respecting. The students should respect the faculty, then only his subject is respected when he delivers. So, this is our view. So, every faculty member should be oriented with the proper training at least once a year, 1 month. Thank you.
Right, sir. So, sir, like you were telling about how there's a bridge needed in order to fill the gap between what is taught in the institutes and what is required in the corporate world. So, like you were telling, a teacher should go for a month and start exposing himself or herself to the corporate needs. I wanted to know what are the other things that a teacher can do in order to fill that gap and bridge that for students' benefit. So, if Ashutosh sir or Ashri ma'am or Prashant sir, if you can show your thoughts on that, if you can show your experience on that, it will be really great.
Well, so as Dr. Chandran was talking about, in our institute, we are making it mandatory for every faculty to have such kind of project to be done in the industry once in a year. So we are calling it as an FIP, Faculty Internship Program, just like Students Internship Program. We make it mandatory so that the faculty also get to know what is the most recent thing happening. They are supposed to even prepare a report of it, make a presentation in front of our board of directors as well as to the students. Similarly, we give live projects to our students which are been taken care by one faculty in charge behind every one student, and then that helps the students also to learn and faculty also to gain knowledge from the most recent trends.
Yeah, I would like to add here. So we at PIBM, of course, one is live project. Apart from that, we have 2 internships for our students, and every faculty is mentoring students on day-to-day work. Plus, they are connected with the external mentor. That is one. Apart from that, we have started our MDP and consulting cell. So every faculty, let it be starting from SME or small startup or a big company, get a project, do a project and interact with the industry, so that, okay, somebody's fresher, they can do just without cost. But yes, there are some senior faculties who can, go and have a good project. Like I'm working on a staff bank project wherein I'm developing a competency framework for them. So that's the way, faculties learn while interacting with the corporate. And rightly, Chandran sir and Ashutosh sir said, there has to be a connect with the faculty and the corporate. Then only our curriculum and syllabus is updated and faculties are also included.
Just to add what ma'am was saying, so just like industries, we have got KRS for faculty. One of the KRS is Management Development Program. They are supposed to, every faculty is supposed to undergo MDP twice a year, and they are supposed to do one consultancy by default. So that enhances and that develops the connect.
Agreed, sir. Yes.
Right. What we do in our case is very often, very now and then, at least once in a week or sometimes twice a week, we have sessions from industry captains. We call senior people from the industry, and it is for the students, but we ensure that the faculties also learn from those sessions. There is, learning should be, we believe, a continuous process for the faculty members. So it's not only for the students, we do it for ensure that the faculty members do sit for those sessions also. Apart from this, we encourage our faculty members to conduct research. We give them ample grants to do the surveys and so on and so forth. We are very liberal when it comes to giving them leaves, and we encourage them to go out, go to the market, talk to people, go to specific industries where you want to do research, get the insights, take interviews, conduct in-depth interviews, call them to the institute, will facilitate whatever is required. So this way, and we give them ample choice. Whichever industry you want to do your research, whether it's automobile industry, retail industry, pharma or chemical industry, you go talk to people and get the information, get the interviews. So this is the way we ensure that there is always a continuous connect between the industry and our faculty members. And this way they are able to correlate the theory and the issues of the industry.
Even now at PIBM, we have expert faculty. There are faculties who are giving certification to our students into FMCG, FMCD, EduTech, Pharma, EdTech, and all those new industries, even real estate. So there are, every faculty is a subject matter expert into one area, wherein they are training students with that particular industry. So they know in and out of that particular sector and the industry. So that's the way we are ensuring that faculties are becoming subject matter experts in a particular area. And plus the certification and add-on knowledge provided to our students also.
Great, ma'am. I want to point out one more question, that how institutes can make classroom learning more inclusive with technology. Like, everything around education is now revolving around technology, and everything is technology driven. So how students can be more benefiting from that, and how you guys can make it more inclusive towards technology?
One is, yes, please, Prashant.
Yes, Ji. Prashant, sir, please.
Okay. I am not personally too much in favor of depending totally on technology. Personally, it's obviously a personal response, but then to make it interesting, we have quizzes, we have got case studies, we have got those interactive forms, so on and so forth. But then again, I feel it has limitations. It will act only to a certain degree and so forth.
Fine, sir.
So
when
please.
Ecosystem, whenever they see the faculty member, eyes are looking at the figure of the teacher, eyes are going through the complete presentation, ears are hearing what the teacher says, both the senses are transmitting the message to brain. Naturally, the students are alert, students are little active. Of course, if you have a session of about 2 hours, 5 minutes, he may doze also, but it's not happening with all people. At least about 80% of the students will be alert all the time. First, the responsibility of the faculty member is to attract the attention. So this is missing. Even our online lectures is monotonous talk of the faculty member may not attract the attention for more than about 20-25 minutes. Right. And we have the tendency to blame that they may mute and go, they give the attendance, they are going on eating and moving around. We may not be able to know. But whenever in the classroom, see, the olden days, the receptivity, the memory power, everything was so strong because 1-to-1, the facial interaction, very powerful. But at the same time, now technology has come. We have to optimize the technology with a simple learning by taking many of the photographs and biographies of, say, for example, J.R.D. Tata. When the Tata Group was started, when Jamshedpur, how many strategic business units are there? One by one, just within a fraction of 5 minutes, we can show the whole Tata Group and give the current leader how every unit is working successfully. So that will be much more effective. Within a month, at least you can cover the whole industrial setup in the classroom. We can make use of technology for quick learning, but the discussion will increase the skill set of the students. So you are going to be merely the facilitator, moderator, guide, and also triggering the nerve cell of every student to think. That's called analytical ability. For this, the words he was using, technology is not everything. The human relation is also very important, right? So if you want to develop, there should be a balance between human interaction and technology, and blend both of them and make the students get maximum benefit out of it, so that future professionals will be our own major strength. Thank you.
I think this is the most apt way to summarize that we now need a perfect blend, a perfect mix of the classroom training and the benefits of the online teaching. So a perfect blend, a perfect mix of these will take us a long way. So actually, we're running out of time also. So I'll just take closing remarks. And what is your takeaway from this webinar, and what do you feel about the webinar? So I would start from Chandran sir. If you can just let us know what is your takeaway, sir.
it is a great opportunity, and we are first meeting about say 4 eminent academicians, right? And they are so positive, proactive, right? So such kind of webinars with a concept, but it's not the webinar, it's seminar. Meaning, just it's better to have physical interaction between the faculty, between the directors, between the students. That alone will build a strong nation. After all, our country is very important. Just it's better all the students to be great wealth creators, and we have overlooked the entrepreneurial approach towards it. I think during next webinar you take up how to develop entrepreneurs from business schools. That will be better. Of skeletons, so that all the luces from the country you can draw, and we will try to create so many business people so that we can create so many jobs and multi-crores or multi-billion dollars. And India is going to be the superpower. For that, we will start a little bit of contribution. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Ashutosh sir, can you please share your views?
Yes. Well, I think we need to look at the positive part of this. Like Microsoft Teams has got a view which is called as a classroom view. So you get a feel that the students are sitting in front of you. So the day is not far that you will get a feeling of even personal touch online. We can call it as an e-touch. So in fact, only the real physical touch will be missing. So positive things are many. So we should take it positively. Thank you so much.
Great, sir. Rashmi ma'am, please share your thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with Ashutosh sir. I think it is going to be a blend of physical classroom as well as online, and we have to take advantage of both and go ahead. And thank you so much, Team College Dunia, as well as all my eminent colleagues who are here. Thank you so much, and I have enjoyed interacting with you all. Thanks. Look forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Prashant sir, please share your views.
Well, a wonderful discussion. Nice learnings from me too. And I'm Chandran sir. I'm not very far away. We will ensure that we meet. Sir, I'll invite you. Ashutosh sir, of course, we have been meeting. Rajeshri madam, nice to meet you. As far as the changing landscape is concerned, well, there is only one way, and that is going to be the technological way. If we have to make a $5 trillion economy, then we have to be the teachers of the world. And this is the first step ahead. And I wish success to College Dunia for conducting such a wonderful webinar.
Thank you so much, sir. So basically, sorry, sir, you were saying something?
No. I said just thank you.
Thank you. So that basically brings us to the end of this wonderful and insightful webinar. I would like to thank all the panelists on behalf of the entire College Dunia team for taking out their precious time and being a part of this initiative with College Dunia. It was certainly a great learning experience for all of us here, and hope there was a good exchange of thoughts and best practices for all the institutes who will be watching this webinar over YouTube, and for all the students who are watching it currently. I would now like to conclude this webinar, and I would like to again thank you, all of you, for being part of this webinar, and hope to see you soon, sir and ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.